What's up guys, Greg's Gauntlet here, back with another video with my Apple TV 4K review. Opening the box, we see a very familiar sight, almost the exact design of the older 2015 Apple TV model. The most notable difference being this white ring on the menu button of the Siri remote. Apple added this white circle to help you identify the front of the Siri remote. At first glance, you might think it's just a white indicator to help you see in the dark, but the white circle has a raised rubbery feel that helps you identify the menu button even when you aren't looking down at the remote. I don't usually have a problem picking up the Siri remote the wrong way, but it is a slight, and I mean slight, improvement to help with holding the remote in the right orientation. On the back of the Apple TV is where you'll find 3 ports, a power port, an HDMI port, and a gigabit Ethernet port. The 2015 model only had a 100 megabit Ethernet port, making this a welcome upgrade for streaming 4K content. Strangely enough, the older Apple TV had a USB-C port on the back, which was really only used for capturing video and as a diagnostic port for Apple employees to use for repairs. You'll also notice on the bottom of the Apple TV 4K is the addition of some vents and an internal fan. This is to help with cooling the more powerful TV box, and thankfully the fan was dead silent in all of my tests. Inside you'll find an Apple A10X chip, 32 or 64 gigabytes of storage, 3 gigabytes of RAM, and a machine that's capable of pushing out 4K resolution with HDR or Dolby Vision. It's packing quite a bit of power, the same as Apple's recently released iPad Pro, so there's a lot of potential in the Apple TV beyond just streaming videos. The experience is pretty much the same as the older 2015 Apple TV. You still have a grid of app icons for TV, movies, and music, and really any other application you can download from the App Store. You can still scroll around with the Siri remote, and the interface is very responsive and fluid, or you can use Siri to search for movies, TVs, music, or apps. Siri search works really well, and it makes it easy to find content that you're looking for. The only main difference is the 4K HDR interface that looks really sharp and crisp on a 4K TV. I would liken it to seeing a Retina iPhone or iPad interface for the first time. Actually, Apple TV Retina would have been a pretty good name. 4K high dynamic range movies look really good on the device, especially those sourced from iTunes. Apple's encoding didn't offer any problems, and the content looked really sharp and with bright, vivid colors, especially if you have an HDR TV set. Shows from Netflix and other sources look good in 4K, but there is a slight problem when watching some HD content without HDR, and especially standard definition content that seem to add a lot of grain into the picture. This stems from the fact that Apple doesn't switch sources when playing back content. The Apple TV picks the best settings that your TV can currently display, so if you have an HDR TV, it's always going to display in HDR. That means if you're watching content that isn't in HDR, it can slightly degrade the picture quality. The main benefit to picking up an Apple TV 4K is actually if you already have a big library of iTunes shows, as Apple will be upgrading any titles that are updated to 4K for free on your device. Apple will also be charging the same price for 4K content as they did for 1080p HD, so that's about $20 for a new movie. This is a big win for consumers, where the studios were rumored to want to charge $30 for new movies and charge an upgrade fee for older content that want it to be upgraded to 4K. Also, the Apple TV works really well if you're heavily invested in Apple's ecosystem. It's super easy to AirPlay content from your Mac, iPad, or iPhone to the Apple TV, and if you have Apple Music, you can easily pull up and play your entire music collection or any new music you'd want on your home entertainment speakers. Apple's App Store is the most robust for any TV platform out there. I wouldn't say there are many two must-haves, but you do have the ability to play a few games, shop on your Apple TV, or even watch live stream content from Twitter or Periscope. Unfortunately, although there are some cool things you can do with the Apple TV, I feel like there's a bit of a missed opportunity on the app side. The Apple TV with the A10X is capable of iPad Pro level performance. There aren't really any applications that take advantage of all that raw horsepower. I'd love for a bigger selection of games, some different types of apps. In my dream world, I think the Apple TV could even be expanded as almost a Mac Mini type of device that ran optimized versions of iOS, allowing you to hook up Apple's Magic Trackpad and keyboard and have a $179 device to run the plethora of amazing iPhone and iPad applications. Ultimately, the Apple TV is a streaming media device. It offers a growing number of 4K HDR content, and I can expect the number of titles and shows to quickly grow now that Apple has entered the fold. I actually think there's already a pretty good selection, especially if you're into Netflix's rapidly growing number of Netflix originals, which are mostly all available in 4K. However, at $179, it's one of the most expensive 4K boxes out there. If you're not heavily invested into the Apple ecosystem, Google and Amazon offer cheaper alternatives starting at $100 less than the Apple TV. If you're heavily invested in Apple's ecosystem, you have a 4K TV, already have a large number of iTunes movies and music, or an Apple Music subscription, and you want to play a few light games, I think the Apple TV 4K is actually a great buy if you're willing to pay the high asking price. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a like, and if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys.